you have a hunger, go out and don't make an excuse for yourself.
Yeah.
You know, read it. If you don't understand that word, copy that word. We have Google, ask Siri, whatever, you know, get that definition of that word and then apply it. Don't give up so quick. I call it the 90-day rule, and corporate has taught me this. So what is it? The 90-day rule. 30 days, you're learning something. On the 60-day mark, you're implementing it. And by the 90th mark, so the third month, you should be seeing some kind of results.
Hey guys, welcome to the REI Big Shots podcast with my guest, Rafael Cortez. Today, I'm excited to have two very good friends of mine. They actually are kind of under the radar, but because I know them personally, they do 2 to 3 times the amount of business most of your social media influencers that you see on IG. I mean, these guys are killing it. They're doing super well. Introducing Art Sanchez and Daniela Sanchez, my good friends, and very successful wholesalers here in town that do deals nationwide almost, I guess you could say. So we'll start there. Rafael.
Welcome to the show. I mean, it's this is one of the most competitive markets, and I think if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. Honestly, and you guys have been crushing over the last several years. So I'm excited to take a deep dive into your guys' operation and just extract some golden nuggets out of that. So
I think what I think they're very strong at is systems and processes. Art handles all the sales. Daniela runs operations. I really like them because they're a really good, I guess, representation of what a husband and wife team can do.
It's awesome.
They killed it. I think last month, what did you guys do? 355?
360.
360.
That's 360,000.
Yeah, I mean, you and I know most guys are under 100.
Yeah.
Like most guys really are.
Oh yeah.
Some guys aren't even doing that. So for them to do 360, it's really unheard of. A lot of people talk about it, but few really do it, you know?
Thank you. And I think the most impressive part about it is not just that amount, but it's the overhead. So you hear a lot of people talk about all these big numbers like, hey, I'm doing, X amount and X amount. And when you ask about their overhead or their expense, they're taking away a fraction of that.
Yeah.
So with us, we've been able to dial in so well with our systems and processes that we've been able to keep a lot of that net proceeds in-house versus having to have to go back into the business to make more, or with overhead, everything's just super dialed in.
Yeah. Well, I think
it's
like it.
65%.
60. Yeah. It's like 66% profit margin.
Wow.
Yeah. That's insane. That's insane.
Yeah. But everybody looks at what's now.
Yeah.
But nobody ever seen what got us here.
Yeah, exactly. So tell us about that
Let's
journey.
break that down, yeah.
Yeah, tell us how you guys started, what got you into the business, and then the journey of, I'm sure you started first just making calls, and then how Daniela stepped in, and we're curious about that whole journey.
It was interesting when you mentioned about how we make a great duo, right?
Yeah.
But it has never been like that.
Yeah.
So
until recently.
Until recently.
Yeah.
Until last year, right? I'll be honest. We're being very transparent and open with you guys. So let me take this back. 2019 is when I first started. July. Started with no money. I was dead broke. My wife, she was working. She was holding it down. She was 3 months pregnant, right, at the time?
Well, no, not when you started. When you started, we hadn't found out that I was pregnant yet.
Okay.
So I was still holding it down, though, at my 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Yep. So I got into wholesaling. No money down, but started cold calling. I scraped up a list, little money I did have, and it took me 4 long months to get my first deal.
It took you 4 months to get one deal. Wow.
10 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Cold calling? Is that what you were doing?
Cold calling.
Yeah.
I was actually on the phones myself, cold calling.
So you were just grinding it out. That's it.
Yeah. I was just figuring it out.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about how to pick up the phones, how to sell, anything about the properties, how to comp. It's just failing forward.
And how did you hear about real estate and wholesaling? How did you first get into that?
Yeah, so this all started at one night. It was like 1:00 in the morning. I was on Facebook scrolling, and then I seen this guy named Nick Rios in Milwaukee.
Yeah, he wrote the book Flip.
Yep. There you go. So his ad popped up. I did my research. I'm like, wait, this guy's talking about.
Did you click on the link below?
Yes. And then I seen his YouTube.
Yeah.
And he was talking about you get into real estate, no money down. I was like, man, this is interesting.
Yeah.
I told my wife about it.
Yeah.
She said,
that's a scam.
Yes,
exactly.
Sure and that's your typical Mexican, right? It's like your Mexican mom.
Yeah.
You tell her something, you're like, hi, mijo.
Yeah. No, mijo, I gotta take your money.
That's not right. Yeah. That's exactly what it was. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna block the noise. I'm gonna figure it out. And long story short, I did my research. Then I found out who Carlos Reyes was.
Gotcha.
Alex Saenz. I'm like, wait, these guys are wholesaling as well?
Mm-hmm.
No, these guys are doing something else. There's no way. And
I first thought they were drug dealers at first.
Yeah, I mean that's typically what we think.
Well, not Alex, but Carlos, because he was super flashy. But he was flashing checks.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yep. So I was like, yeah, these guys could do it. I could definitely do it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, 4 months took me to get my first deal.
Wow.
Made $11,000. But let me tell you this.
You know what's crazy? My first deal, I made $11,000. Well, it was $22,000.
Oh,
but
cute.
I split it. I split it with Carlos.
See?
Yeah.
I remember you told me about that. Well, really, I was gonna make $5,000. I was like, all right. I was already adding my budget. I was like, all right, $5,000. I need to pay my rent. I need to pay because I was planning getting 2 cold callers in a list.
Now, were you working part-time or you?
No, full-time.
Oh, so
full-time.
So literally, Daniela was holding it down.
Yes,
literally.
I was literally working 6 days a week, 7 to 7, and
7 to 7.
Yes, one thing he didn't mention was that around that time is when I found out I was pregnant. So I told him, I was like, hey, I'm tired. I'm hiding my pregnancy. I have morning sickness. You need to get a deal, figure this out. I don't know how. Or you're gonna get a 9 to 5. Like I'm done.
Gotcha.
I can't do this no more. I'm tired.
So the pressure was on.
Oh, it was on. Within that time that she told me that I got a deal, it was a month.
Wow. Really?
A month. Yeah. So
you didn't have any other choice. That's
I had no other choice. So yes, I was like, all right, back to the deal. I was gonna make $5,000. I was like, this is not enough. I was like, you know what? I did something that I recommend nobody doing on the first deal, especially in my situation.
Yeah.
Decided to do a price drop on the seller.
Really?
And yes, I called the seller, tried to renegotiate. He wasn't having it. He hung up, and I was like, holy shit. That whole night I couldn't sleep.
Wow.
I contacted him the next day. He's like, you know what, Art? I consider it. Let's go ahead and do it.
Gotcha.
And
so that's how you ended up making from 5 to 11.
$11,000, and then from there I paid my rent, and then I put the rest into the business.
Yeah.
And from there it was history.
Wow. So that's how it just started.
He sure shut me up because remember I was the naysayer. I was the noise, as he said, because I didn't believe in it at first. How he said, growing up, you're just taught, this is how you make money, and
unless you do something else, a different kind of business.
Yes. Yeah. And I'll tell you this is that behind my mind, like during that the 4 months, I was telling myself, I was like, all right, then all the people that were doubting me, my mom, she was like, oh, get a job. Yeah. That was behind my head too. Yeah. Like, I'm not getting a job. I'm gonna show my mom that I can make something for myself. I could do it. Yeah. And what happened when I closed my first deal, I called my mom, I showed her the check. Yeah. And she was excited, man. Yeah. But that was my drive. That was my motivation is shutting all the people down. Like, not only her, family members, friends.
Yeah. It's pretty interesting how that works, and I think we see it quite a bit, right? Like at least the people that make it are those who hold on to their idea, like their lane, the stuff that they're thinking about. Like, shit, I have this dream, I'm gonna follow it, I'm gonna see it through, and it's just something. It's a gut feeling sometimes. You have a lot of noise coming in from relatives, and I feel like it's not always coming from an ill space, like from a space of wanting you to fail. It's just what they know, right? They haven't taken risks. They're risk averse. We're wired a little different, and for example, especially coming from like mom. My mom was the same thing. Like, mijo, you're taking too many risks. Like, you take it easy, do something else. I feel like some of my worst criticized moments came from family.
Yeah.
And a lot of those were coming from a good space from their, from their side. Like, I don't want you to fail, so don't take risks.
Yeah.
But
exactly.
fuck, I mean, we have the ability to do something big, right? Especially when we come across, something that really all it requires is tenacity and the ability to give it the time it needs to work.
And believe that it's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's John Jones, the UFC fighter. I think that's his name.
Bones.
Yeah. They interviewed him and they're asking him how he became successful. He's like, you know what? I just watched a ton of videos on self-belief.
Yes.
I was like, wow, that's interesting. I mean, we all know self-belief, it drives everything.
Yep.
But like to hear him say that, I just watched a ton of YouTube videos on self-belief. And now he's a UFC champion. So I just thought that was interesting. So you knew, did you know for sure you're going to make it? You're hoping, like, what was your mindset at the time?
One thing is even when I have $1 to my name, I always carry myself as a millionaire.
Yeah.
Because it starts to appear.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's all the unlimited belief that you have to break. So I knew I was going to make it. There was no questions asked.
I knew for a fact.
It's
Gotcha.
just the question is when.
Yeah. Not a matter of if, matter of when.
Yeah, when
it's going to happen.
Which actually, that's the same with all of us. Yeah. Like we know it was going to happen. It just mattered when.
Yeah.
That's it.
And it comes down to faith as well. Yeah. I had a lot of faith.
So, sorry, go ahead.
I was actually going to touch on that because the Bible literally says that faith is very big, right? We all have faith to do things. But without works, there is no faith.
Correct.
So I'm sure during this podcast, some people are going to listen out and hear Art say certain words that might not be pronunciated the way they should.
Yeah.
Because one thing that a lot of people don't know about him is he has a speech impediment.
Gotcha.
But that confidence behind him, unless you're listening out for it, you go right over it.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with the sellers. So during that time frame of him hitting the phones, one thing he would do every single night before bed is we will listen to his calls together.
Really?
That's awesome. I would tell him, hey, you know what? Instead of saying it like this, say it like this.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what kind of, disability, what kind of shortcomings, what kind of education you might have, as long as you have that faith and you put in that work and have that drive and motivation, like the possibilities are endless.
So you had a speech problem when you were younger then?
Is what the doctor said, right?
So you didn't buy into that. That's it. That's the kind of mindset you're supposed to have.
Yeah.
That's the kind of mindset you're supposed to have. But it's interesting. Like, let's say that was the case, it didn't hold you back from becoming successful.
End of the day, man, look at me.
Yeah.
Full of tattoos. Yeah. Right. Look at the color I am.
Yeah.
People are gonna discriminate.
But you got a nice gold watch there, though.
Yeah, pretty nice watch.
So right? So regardless of your upbringing, any issues you had, challenges, you still made it happen, and it's because of why you think?
My drive. I don't stop.
Gotcha.
And with what anybody thinks of me, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter
whatsoever. So it's just what's in here.
Yeah.
You
got to have that fire in the belly and just believe in yourself.
At all times, block all noises.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's awesome.
So walk us through your first couple of years in business. I mean, you rolled into this in 2019.
Yeah.
2020. I mean, it kind of became like the. I mean, I feel like it was soft sale, right? 2020, 21. Hedge funds came in. They started pre-COVID.
Well, when COVID hit, I had 6 deals get canceled, so it was rough.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden it picked up.
Yeah, it picked up in I mean maybe a year after.
Then we all did
ballparking.
Amazing
when you started.
Yeah.
So how do you go from hitting the phones all day long and then you working full time 12 hours a day into having or transitioning into your own business and starting that cadence of steady deal flow?
Yeah, the thing is that generally when somebody makes money especially money that they've never made before, what happens is like they get complacent, like they stop doing the work that got them to where they're at.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like, all right, then I seen that it fell in the bank. I knew that the next day I had to put double the work, so I stayed consistent no matter what. And I always added more to what I was already doing. So, you know, when I got my first deal, I hired callers, and then from there, 3 months later on, I got my office.
You mean within 3 months you got an
within
office?
brick and mortar?
Let's
go.
Within 3 months, I got an office because it took me about from that deal. It took me 2 months to get my next deal, and my next deal I had it was about $30,000.
So you only close 2 deals in 6 months.
Yeah,
but you still got an office.
Yeah.
Wow.
I went all in.
Art has a very high risk tolerance. When he's gonna go in, he's going all in.
Gotcha.
Well, I think that's also part of the belief.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's 2 deals in 6 months, but it doesn't matter because I have an office. Like, if I have an office, there's more deals coming, and it just becomes a logical understanding of the thing.
Because, you know, I did the math. I was like, okay, I found an office out there in Sun City.
Yeah.
There's not much going on out there.
I don't think that would work.
So
it would be cheap. But,
yep.
Yeah.
So I got into a sublease, and I was paying $600 a month.
So you did get an office in Sun City?
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. I thought you were looking at it. You actually did it.
No, I got an office.
Oh,
I got an office in Sun City for 6 months. I did the math. You know, $600 a month. I'm like, all right, let's do that.
That's not bad.
Deal.
That's not bad. Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah. So like that was my thought process, right? But yeah. So from when I got my office, I was like, all right, that I blocked all noises. It's me and the phones, and then from there, you know, I think again, I never worked for any like as far as a what's I gonna say
as an employee.
Yeah, well, yeah, corporate America.
Yeah, gotcha.
You know, and I never been a business owner neither. Yeah. So when I get into this office, I was like, all right, then what's next? How do I start scaling? You know, hiring employees.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
So you were kind of winging it.
Yeah, yeah. So from there,
he would have to call me when he needed to send a DocuSign. So I'd be at work, you know, and behind my desk.
Because you had a corporate job, right?
Yeah, I had a corporate job. Yeah. So you know, I'm not gonna say I'm the most tech savvy, but I'm pretty tech savvy. Yeah. So you know, that's what it was. It was teaching him how to use, you know, these systems and all that, and a lot of the things that he learned were self-taught as well. Yeah. So it was, you know, putting in that work. Yeah.
And guys like us, like, we're not good at systems and processes.
I don't know how to work that computer. Yeah. My life depended on it. Jeez. Like she said it. That's funny. She helped me send out a DocuSign for me.
There's a couple of pretty interesting things that happen when you move into a space, like a dedicated space. It's almost like, you know, when I walk into the office, it's like game on. You know what I mean? It's different. It's just, you know, we can have home offices and whatnot. There's so many distractions. It's easy to go to the backyard to, I don't know, sit down, watch TV for 15 minutes, and then that runs into 2 hours. So you have those, but I feel like the energy is different when you go into an office setting, even if it's, you know, a small room or a shared, whatever it is, right? But if it's your work area, you're wired, you're mentally wired, and you adapt to I feel like that behavior, that specific moment, and you just operate differently.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, makes sense. No, I agree. I you know, I have my home office, but I also got an office now. But yeah, when you're in the office, you just get more done. Yeah, it makes a difference. 100%.
So you start hitting it at the office, and then when did you hire your first employee, and how did that evolve?
So this is interesting, right? My first hire was my mother-in-law. I remember, yes, because I remember me telling her.
Bypassed you. Okay.
Wow.
But she was working, right?
I was still working. Yeah. I had, you know, hey, the deals were few and far in between, so I still had to hold stuff down at home while the deal money was going into the operation. So,
but if that isn't a whatever it takes attitude, I don't know what is. Yeah, her and your mother-in-law.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So, but believe it or not, when I first started. I was actually driving for dollars for about a week or two. It didn't last.
Yeah, I tried that.
It's rough.
It's rough. It's rough. So for all you guys that are driving for dollars and getting deals, I
salute you.
Yeah. So it's one of our top lead sources, by the way. But
I know it's door knocking, right?
It's rough,
especially in this Phoenix heat. So yeah, I told her, hey, you know what? One day you're gonna work for me.
Yeah.
And sure enough, the opportunity happened. You know, something happened with her last job, and I was like, you know what, come in.
That's good.
You know,
and she's a really sweet lady too.
Yeah, to this day, she runs our company.
Wow.
You know,
That's
and
awesome.
That's awesome.
Manager, yeah.
Yeah.
she's a huge asset. You know, I wouldn't have been here. We wouldn't have been here if it wasn't for her. For her.
Gotcha. And let me ask you, so from like you doing it by yourself, like clearly you started to scale it. Like what were some of the things that either mentally but also strategically that helped you scale to get to that level?
You know, it goes back to a risk taker, you know, and that's the problem with a lot of these people is that they try to figure it out first before doing it.
Yeah.
For me, it's just, all right, you know what, just doing it and then figuring it out as I go.
Yeah.
So, I was scaling, but I was on the phones by myself. I didn't hire an acquisition or anybody else, but I hired more cold callers.
Gotcha.
So.
Wait, let me interject really quick. You weren't only doing the cold calling, the acquisition side. He was also doing Dispo at the time because I hadn't entered the picture yet. I was still working my 9 to 5.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So Sandra, which is my mother, was doing TC. He was doing the acquisition and the Dispo side of things.
So for how long did you do acquisitions and Dispo?
Jeez. So it took me till January, February of 2021.
And you started in 19.
In 19.
So you did Dispo and acquisitions for 2 years straight.
By myself.
By yourself.
No, to 2020, because that's when Natalia was born and that's when I entered the picture.
Well, remember 2021, we went to the mastermind out there in La Jolla, right? And that's when you quit your job.
Oh.
And that's another story that we want to talk about as well.
But still, it was a long time.
Yes.
Because most people would. I mean, the reality is most people would burn out. Like most people can't handle that. Yeah. So, and I was just thinking about it. Like the reason a lot of people fail is I think one is having critical thinking, but the other one is you just don't have the grind. Like you just don't. You don't have the grind. You just don't have it in you to like stick into it long enough. Right?
I didn't understand how to delegate. You know, and that was my biggest challenge during that time as well. So like, if I would have asked myself, the 2019 art, like how to start, it's like for sure, get your first deal, hire a couple cold callers, stick it through, build your capital, then get an office, and then hire an acquisition.
So then basically the way you scaled was to delegate.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes. That's where it changed everything. Gotcha. Once she came into the company.
Now tell us about that, because you had a job. It must have been hard to quit. Like, tell us about that decision to leave your job, to work with him, and, that's interesting.
Yeah. So in 2020, that's when our daughter was born, in January, the end of January. So I was on maternity leave. So I was helping out here and there, at the office as I could. And he started to see more traction. We started to scale more. And, I just felt like, at that moment in time, hey, you know what? Sandra's involved. My mom's involved. He's in good hands.
Yeah.
She knows. I call her literally, the serial student because she has so many degrees in everything.
Really?
She just loves school. Yeah. And so I was like, you know what? She's good. He's good. But I went in. I started seeing things a little bit differently, and he started to see really that drive in me and that movement inside the business. Yeah. So he kept telling me, hey, you got to quit your job. You got to quit your job. You got to quit your job. Me with that scarcity mindset, I'm like, hey, what if we don't get a deal for, these months? Who's going to hold it down?
Yeah.
I think of things way differently than Art does. We have children. So I'm like, I need to be able to provide for my household. Yeah. Art does an amazing job, but me at that moment in time, I was like, things are just too uncertain for me just to go all in.
Yeah.
And we went out to the All-In Mastermind in La Jolla. It was our daughter's first birthday and my 26th birthday.
Gotcha.
So we went out. We spent, the time at the mastermind. I only went that one day because I was spending it with my family. And I just walked in and I asked, like, how do you just quit your job? Because on our way there to La Jolla, I had gotten a call, pretty much, congratulations, you've been doing great for the company, yada, yada. you're gonna get a raise. You know, I was expecting that call. It was like 50 cents. So it was like a big slap in my face.
Yeah.
She was expecting that call for some time. Like,
But 50 cents is not. Yeah.
But that's regular for corporate, you know?
Yeah.
You know, even if you get a dollar raise, it's like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And it was just like, you know, enough was enough. So they told me just burn that bridge.
Yeah.
Ended up quitting. That following month, we hit 6 figures, our first 6-figure month.
Wow.
And I remember when the first deal closed, I looked at it and I was like, I started laughing. And he's like, why are you laughing? I was like, I was so hesitant, and this is literally what I would make in a year.
Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
in 1 month,
yeah,
we made, you know, freaking 6 figures. Like, who knew? And then from there, it was just scaling.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting when you get a check, and it's 2 months of work. On the low end, you're like, wow, like I got to spend more time on this.
The crazy thing is that you can't see it. You can see other people doing it, but you don't believe it until it's you part of the process.
Yep.
Like you're in the process. You're doing oh shit, this happened because of something that I did, and that becomes a direct, I feel like, impact. I mean, you were already closing deals.
Yeah.
But to her, it was still like, it's not necessarily believable yet, right? Until she was part of it, and I think we see that once you get hit with that first check. And you have that closing, and then you realize, like, man, I have the ability to do this over and over again.
Yep.
Wow, and I can scale this. Wow. I mean, it's a rewiring. It just breaks your head. I think it does.
It really does, and
in a good way. Yeah.
It's really a big mind shift.
Yeah.
Something that I really had to go ahead and deal with and reprogram myself, because growing up, once you get money, what are you taught?
Yeah.
No, I'm asking, what are you guys taught?
People are going to steal it. They're going to take advantage of something. You're going to lose it somehow.
You have to save. Save for a rainy day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whose parents has always been something that was drilled into my head. Save.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't make money without spending money.
Yeah, that's true.
So
Facts.
that was a big mind shift change, because the money came in and I was like, oh my God, we made 6 figures. And then Art was like, all right, it's going back out here. I'm going into marketing, going into, this. He's like, we got to keep going. If you want to make money, you got to spend money.
Yeah.
So that was another, mind shift change that I had to work on myself. Because like I said, he was very much, has that high risk.
Mm-hmm.
And me, I'm like, let's move slowly.
Yeah.
Let's, not slow and steady runs the race.
Yeah.
Not always, especially during that time, because then COVID came around. Just like you said, you had a bunch of deals that,
well, remember,
were taken.
When she had came into the business, that's when, because I was working with a hedge fund. I was working with one hedge fund during that time. When she came to the business, that's when hedge funds started offering more money.
Yeah.
Like $30,000 more than usual. Yeah. And I was like, wait, something's going on.
Well, I remember when I met you at a one of Carlos and Sal's event.
Yeah.
And we had just met, and I'm like, we were talking to you, like, yeah, we did 285 last month. I'm like, you're selling the hedge funds, aren't you? And Art's like, shh. So like, cause like there's no
top secret
at that time there's no way to do those kind of figures unless you were selling the hedge funds. And and at the time I was, and I'm like, okay, yeah, he's doing hedge funds. And actually, I mean, that's how eventually we got into our mastermind, Collective Greatness. And so we shared strategies on how to sell enough hedge funds, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But tell us about that. Then when you started working with him, like, how would that evolve, and what was that like? Was it as a husband and wife? How was that? Is that kind of hard?
It wasn't easy at first.
I figured it wasn't easy.
Nope.
No.
So that was let's answer the first question. No, it was not easy at all. I feel like we, as husband and wife, although my husband loves and respects me, he is the head of our household. Yeah. Right? So when you're going into a business relationship, I'm expected to be seen as an equal. Yeah. I'm a partner. We're partners. Yeah. So as much as your input matters, so does mine. Yeah. So at the beginning, it was kind of that power struggle. And I don't want to call it a power struggle, but more of a boundary setting. Yeah. We had to learn how to set certain boundaries and how to leave work at work and then, our home life at home. Yeah. Because you can't mix the two.
Yeah.
And if you start mixing the two, it's like,
oh, it's tough.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Like I had somebody ask me, they're like, how do you guys do it? Because if he were to, you know, disrespect me at work, when we get home, he ain't getting none.
Yeah.
And I was, a girl told me,
Yeah.
I was laughing. I was like, oh my God. I was like, see,
Yeah.
I was like,
That
you guys are
doesn't
going to
work.
set yourself up for failure
Yeah.
if that's already how you're thinking.
Yeah, exactly. Because in business, there's going to be arguments and disagreements. I mean, for sure.
Absolutely.
This is especially important to me right now because my wife is about to jump into the business. So I've had it since 2009. I've been running things on my own and everything. And she's always worked at school. She's like, she's a counselor and she's held like different roles, but it's always been the school districts, right? Like that's always been her passion and everything. And all of a sudden she goes, I think I'm gonna come in and help you in the business. And I was like, oh, shit. Okay, good.
Like, okay.
And I I'm excited because I want it to be part of the family business, right? And like and all this, but there's also like things that just kind of like that question pops up, like it's in the back of my head, like, oh, what like the dynamic, what's as far as separating business from our your family and the private life, I guess. So that to me is especially like intriguing right now because that's what I'm about to roll into. I feel pretty hopeful because she compliments me on areas that I have deficits on. She's highly very detail oriented and that kind of stuff. And she's like, even at home, like the dynamic that we have, she just fills in my gaps. You know what I mean? And I hope it's gonna be the same way. I'll keep you guys posted. I'll let you know, like in about a year or something.
I'd love to know.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody that I know
Super sharp
that the
too,
wife stepped into the business. I mean, they did better. You guys did. A friend of mine, Lee Dotson, when his wife stepped in, he started doing a lot better. Like I know for sure when my wife started helping me in the business, like it's just the business just took off because it's a different type of view of the business. So like he says, they're able to fill those gaps and those holes that you can't see. Because I know you got your defaults and your shortcomings that she can shore up, like we all do, and vice versa, right? So I think that's the dynamic. And when you're working with your husband and wife, although it could be more challenging, they know you so well. Like she could be like, okay, I know Art's not good at this, so let me take care of it. You know what I mean? So I think that's why it works so well.
100%. And honestly, I feel like that's honestly the biggest shift for us in every time that we have elevated and succeeded. It's because we're working together versus working apart. So when you guys first asked, Art said it wasn't always this way. Why? Because even though we got it together in the beginning, with each elevation, there's been a new challenge between that dynamic. So it's always going to be challenged, but as long as there's that respect and that love and those boundaries, it's nothing but success.
Yeah, you're both rowing in the same direction. I mean, that makes a big difference.
Very true.
And then what's the key to that? How are you able to manage that? Like, what do you think? I'd like to hear it from Daniela. Like, how do you manage that knowing who does what and where the power it gets divided, etc. How do you guys manage that?
So it's honestly been trial and error because when we first started off during hedge fund days, he was acquisition, I was disposition. I was known as Dispo Queen. So it was super easy, right? But when that shifted and now
when they stopped buying,
Gotcha.
When they stopped buying and now there's pain involved, right? Now with any partnership,
there was no pain in that.
What are you talking about?
Whether your husband or wife or two, partners, they're regardless of you're running a business together, you're gonna feel it. So we kind of turned against each other at that time. Why? Because it was like acquisition was doing their thing, disposition was doing their thing, but now we're selling properties to regular buyers, regular cash buyers. So it's
and they weren't paying much either.
Whole different beast.
Whole different process, whole different everything, right? So it was a lot of finger pointing, like, hey, I would tell him, hey, your acquisition is doing this and this and this. And he'd be like, nah, your disposition can't sell. And back and forth. And we're like, you know what? We're switching roles. So we switched roles. I went into his department. He went into my department. And he was able to say, hey, you know what? You're right. And I was able to see the certain things
their
that
perspective.
needed. So we were able to go ahead and now switch that, dynamic around. And now we're able to see, okay, we have to work together versus against each other. And that's when the biggest thing clicked of acquisition and disposition should be treated as one. I feel like everybody treats them as two different companies. That's
because that's what we're taught, right? They have to be aligned.
No, that's true. The closer your dispo and acquisition departments are, the more money you make, the better you do. Yeah, for sure.
It goes back to pointing fingers.
Exactly.
Yeah, when we have I mean, it's part of our standing protocol, right? To do daily huddles and all that stuff. But the big point, the big purpose of the daily huddles is to talk over the deals with acquisitions and dispo and TC and everybody involved in every single deal in the same conversation. What's going on here? Okay, this is I'm gonna need help and support here. Can we reach out to the seller and then help me out with this? We need to extend the COE for the buyer on this side and whatnot. So it's always a team effort. If you divide it and then I think it's okay to divide lanes and responsibilities, but you can't divide the communication.
100%.
That's key.
So,
Those are Tuesday meetings that you just explained.
Now, let me ask you now, what steps did you take and what was it that got you to do 300, 360 a month? Because that's not easy. Like most, guys,
not in this market.
Most people are not doing that right now. Like most people have never done that before, to be honest with you, especially in this market. I mean, I'm not doing 350 a month. That's some good numbers. So what do you think? What was it? Like, how did you guys get there? Like, what are some of the tips that you recommend for people to get to that level or close to that level?
Systems and processes.
I was going to let her explain that part as well.
Well, give us, that's a broad phrase, right?
Yep.
Yeah,
everybody talks about that too. It's all about systems and processes. Now, Daniela, explain. What are the processes
and systems?
What the first thing that you need to do if your business is struggling is a root cause analysis. So essentially what that is you go ahead and go in with your team and you have the whole team just talk about all of the issues and the problems, everything that's going wrong in every single department. Then you're going to go ahead and start to see the common things that are wrong in the business so that you can go ahead and now, one, fix it, and then two, figure out where in the flow or the business chart does it need to be delegated and taken care of. For example, we were having a lot of issues when we first started doing the novations with sellers backing out and a lot of complaints. So we got that across the board. In Dispo, what was Dispo saying? Oh, well, when the realtors show up or the buyers show up, they don't want to be let into the they're not letting them into the property because they're saying that they didn't sign up for, home showings. Then TC, oh, this person's calling me and that they want to back out because of A, B, C, or D. So it was a common thing. So what did we have to go ahead and now do? Fix it on the acquisition side. Now acquisition had to go ahead and focus and set those clear expectations.
So a big part of it was setting expectations with the sellers.
Yes, that's the biggest issue throughout a lot of these deals is setting expectations with the seller. And that's what we had to work.
And how do you do that?
So for example, it's like I'm letting the seller, I'm being very transparent with the seller that I am going to list the property. So letting them know there's going to be multiple walkthroughs on the property. There's going to be realtors going out there as well. And then, so for example, is property vacant. We're going to put a lockbox on that property. So just make sure the property's cleared out. We're going to place a lockbox on that property. The property's going to be listed on the MLS, and other platforms. So those are the type of expectations we're letting the seller know as well. And a lot of them, of reassuring them is towards the cool down, reminding them again.
I talked about the cool down, the setting expectations cool down all the time.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people don't realize how critical it is.
Oh, absolutely. That's very important as well. It's like we set the expectations throughout the whole call. And then once they sign, the cool down is reminding them again exactly what's going to happen afterwards.
Did you put that into a script?
That's on the script. As we built that script, but most importantly, we built out our sales process. So that's part of the cool down that
you guys saw that script by chance, or it's just internal?
We're gonna eventually give it out to the public. Gotcha. Actually, that's what we're working on as well. It's like, all right.
Well, I think we could pitch that right now for $200 a pop.
Yeah, I mean, I give it to you for free if you want to sell it to them.
Perfect. No, I'm just saying because honestly, guys, that's critical. Like having those expectations and the cool down is it's one of the most important parts.
Sorry. Continue on with the script. I have something in my mind. I'll circle back to it.
Well,
you were just saying how important it is to have that process.
Yes, absolutely.
So, and then just in case they didn't get it the first time, we tell them on the second time. The same expectations are now again talked about during the intro call with the TC.
Yeah,
gotcha.
That's I call it a same page call. So we do that. We do a recap, and it's actually laid out. It's part of that SOP. So acquisitions, and then it gets transferred over to Dispo, right? The file moves on. We have a signature on it. The first thing that happens is we run underwriting session, make sure the numbers are good for the Dispo side, and then we send it over to TC. TC starts to prep the file, run preliminary title reports, and that sort of thing. But when they reach out to the seller, the same page call, like the same page conversation, this is the buy price, this is the, these are the terms, this is the timeline, this is what we're looking at doing, whatever the structure is, right? Seller financing.
So you're reiterating everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So then that TC becomes the point of contact that, at that point, everybody else is a supporting, team member. Going forward.
We got a script for that too.
Yeah. Nice.
Gotcha.
Love it.
Yeah. So, our biggest complaint was they didn't tell me that the property is going to be listed.
Yeah.
I see it on Zillow. Yeah. And we go back to the call. It's like, yeah, we did explain to you that it is going to be listed. So
it's on the contract.
Explaining to them, and then on the cool down as well. And then what she was saying to the transaction coordinator, part of their job as well on the intro call is reassuring them that, hey, the property you signed up on a power purchase program. That's what we call. And then it is going to be listed on the MLS. Now did say the acquisitions name. Yeah. Now did Chris mention that?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Okay. Gotcha. So remind them again.
Yeah. So basically that's the big part of it. Your processes, your systems for acquisitions all the way to TC, all the way to Dispo.
Yes. Exactly.
And because once that's in line, then you can start to ramp up your marketing.
Yes.
Is that pretty much the process?
Because we track our how we scale based off our complaints as well. It's like, all right, what type of complaints have we received this week?
Gotcha.
It's like, all right, then we only received 2 complaints. Okay, what were the complaints?
So you're always troubleshooting.
Oh, all the time.
Every time.
So we created a foundation that works for our business.
Yeah.
And then the market's constantly shifting. So why as a business are we going to always stay the same?
Yeah, exactly.
Our foundation always stays the same, but we're always implementing and switching things around by doing a new root cause analysis.
Yeah. Yes.
So that way we're able to pivot quick and direct our team into which direction we need to go. And that has been the key to our success.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, we're good friends. I didn't even know that you guys had that process.
And then as well, it's like you asked, like, not a lot of people are hitting these type of numbers. Yeah, absolutely. You're right. Or not being consistent.
Yeah.
Why is that? Well, because, there's 2 types of people. We were one of them at first. We're hustlers. We're thinking like hustlers, how to get the next check.
Yeah.
Right? Now, how do we think as business owners?
Yeah.
Okay. Long term, like how's this company going to be able to last for many more years to come, even without us in place? And that's what we think about every single day, long term wise. Okay. How to build relationships, how to keep our name, clean.
Yeah.
Even with the BBB, all that.
Yeah.
So that's a difference right there. And that was a biggest change in our career as well. It's like, all right, stop thinking as a hustler. Let's be business people, and I want Daniela to explain that as well, because
so that shift really happened when we almost lost everything.
Is that when the hedge funds stopped buying?
When the hedge funds stopped buying.
Gotcha.
Why? Because
I know we all lost a lot of money.
Yes.
Oh, for sure.
Everybody got so complacent and thought it was easy, because it was easy.
Yeah.
That anybody could wholesale, anybody could make money. Yeah. There was no SOPs needed. There, we were order takers at this point.
Yeah.
Especially how we would literally get a report from the hedge funds. We were working with almost 30 different hedge funds at the time. We would get a report of what they were looking for.
Yeah, their buy box.
How much, their buy boxes. We even had, access to their systems, their portals.
And then in Angel, we created a that spreadsheet that you enter the zip code and tells you who's buying in that zip code.
Yep.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah. We really had everything super dialed in. So when everything shifted, it was like, holy crap, And not ever wanting to be in that position really switched everything. So everybody always has such a bad look or a bad taste in their mouth when they say, oh, corporate.
Yeah.
But what is it that corporate has that a lot of, hustlers don't?
Yeah.
Longevity.
Yeah.
They're there for years. How long has Wells Fargo, Bank of America, all these big old huge banks, corporations been in business for? Why? Because they have systems and processes.
Yeah.
So that when things happen, they're able to pivot and shift.
Yeah, makes sense.
And if one good employee leaves, the business
doesn't
leave.
affect the
No,
business.
you plug and play.
Plug and play, exactly.
Yeah.
So that really, was one of our biggest shifts. Another one was not chasing the shiny object. Oh my goodness. I don't know how many times I would tell our like, that's not a good investment. Just because it works for them doesn't mean it's going to work for us.
She loves
and
saying that. She was right.
yeah, and that's, one of the balances that we have, going back to your earlier question about how do we work together as a couple. He's not always right, I'm not always right, but we're not, if it makes sense, we'll try it for 3 months, and then we'll keep doing it if it's working. If not, we're gonna go ahead and just scrap it.
So you guys are humble enough to listen to each other's advice.
Exactly.
That's fair.
It's a good counterbalance.
Yes. Yes.
So,
No, it's true, because some guys, I'm the man of the family. It's my way or the highway.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Well, that was my biggest challenge as well in the beginning. It was like, well, I've been doing this longer than you.
Yeah.
I'm right.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, Art.
Yeah.
You're not right.
Yeah.
And that's why you're behind every single time. I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't want to hear it. But now it's like, all right, then every any idea that I do have always come to her.
Yeah.
And then she breaks it down, and then because I'm a visual learner, she's like, all right, then this is a good idea, but this is where we're gonna do it, but this is where we're gonna start.
Yeah.
So there has to be that balance and that communication. So that's what's been working for us.
Gotcha.
Yep, I gotta pull them down from the stars sometimes, and then,
Yeah.
this is how we're gonna build the rocket to be able to get there.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But so that's what was happening, is he was chasing the next shiny object and implementing things into the business that at the end of the day weren't for us. Not every structure, not every system is gonna work.
Like, what kind of things I'm just curious, like what? Like different projects or?
No. So like, for example, let's say PPC.
Gotcha.
So our team is super good at cold calling.
Gotcha.
So when you throw PPC in the mix, PPC is a whole different beast in itself.
Yep.
Different
So
processes.
if you don't know how to, work that process or how to run comms nationwide or whatever it is, you're just gonna clog up your
pipeline.
team.
Yep, that's happened to us.
Yeah.
And analyze deals as well, like in rural areas, just because they believe it's a good deal, they lock it up, and then what happens on the transaction? This book clogs it up.
Yeah.
The 70% rule doesn't apply everywhere. I mean, that's one thing we learned.
Yeah.
No, I think
going
for
national,
PPC rural areas, you got to be like at 40 cents on the dollar.
Yeah,
It's tough.
Yep. I tell my team the same thing too. 50, cents a dollar.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
But getting back to what you're saying is like what got us here.
Yeah.
The numbers that we're doing.
Yeah.
And I truly believe it comes down to our team. We're in the people's business. It's like our main goal. Well, let's take it back. When everybody comes in, what do we do first? What's the first conversation that we have when we sit them down?
We ask them for their business goals and
Financial goals.
Yeah, their personal goals and financial goals and personal goals.
Gotcha.
Yep.
That's what Grant Cardone teaches.
Yes. Yes. So we have that conversation. Write it down. We never forget, because going based off accountability. Because that's one of our core values. And if they're not hitting their KPIs, guess what? It goes back to their goals. Who are they letting this? They're letting themselves down.
Yeah.
So I keep pushing my team every single day, keep reminding them how they should continue pushing through so they can get closer to the goals. And guess what? That's exactly what's going on with every single of our team members. It's like, what we did last year was we had a vision board. We sat down with them. We drew down our vision board at the beginning of this year. And 2 of our employees already have marked down 2 or 3 out of their vision board.
Oh, that's great.
Nice.
You know,
That's good.
The income. One of them got the car that they wanted, their house. You know, and that's what pushes.
Yeah.
Every single day to remind us, like, end of the day, it's not about us. It's about them.
Yeah.
Because if we could push them, guess what's going to end up happening for the company?
Yeah. Oh, I always tell my team, like, guys, I want you to make money, because if you make money, obviously I'm going to make money. It's a byproduct of what you do. And I don't like it. Like, if they're not, that like the Dispo team isn't selling deals, then they're not making money. That affects me, but I don't like the fact that it's affecting me, but it's also affecting them.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like, come on, like, you guys, you want to do it for yourself, because then the byproduct is the company makes money.
Yes.
What does your guys' team look like right now?
Yes, so we have 5 acquisitions, 2 lead managers.
They're all in-house, right?
So
everybody in-house?
The acquisitions in-house.
Gotcha.
And then 2 lead managers virtual, 2 Dispo reps in-house, 4 virtual, 2 TCs, but one of them just went remote, right? And that's about it, right?
Gotcha. And your sister still does Dispo?
Yes.
Gotcha.
She runs the Dispo.
She's a Dispo manager.
Yes.
Yeah, she's a Dispo. We made her into a Dispo manager this year, right? The beginning of this year.
Yeah.
Best decision ever.
Gotcha.
You know,
Wow.
she's in charge of our virtual Dispo reps, and it worked out perfectly.
And let me tell you, even though that's my sister, it was so hard. I am a perfectionist.
Yeah.
And a control freak.
Well, I've seen your disc test. It was like, I never, like, a girl, most girls don't have her disc. She's a super high D, super high. I was like,
she's
wow.
an alpha.
She's an alpha. Yeah.
So
yeah, totally.
You know, I had that, because at the end of the day, what emotion is behind that fear of, what emotion is behind that, fear of letting go?
Yeah.
It's fear. Because why? You have that fear that, oh crap, if I let go of the reins, this person's not going to do as good of a job as I am.
Yeah.
And now we're going to suffer on this and this and this.
Yeah.
But you can't, if you're not replicating, you can't delegate. And if you can't delegate, you can't keep moving up.
Yeah.
Like, it's just impossible.
Yeah.
So I had to go ahead and say, you know what? I'm letting go, because where am I most needed?
Yeah.
Working on the business and not in the business.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll still sneak away and do skip tracing because it calms me.
Yeah.
But for the most part, that's all I do is I work in the business, on the business
not in it.
and I do some coaching.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And that has really helped out. And it has not only, helped our team grow, it has given them so much confidence. And without confidence, your team is not going to make the decisions that need to be made.
Yeah.
Because if you're always there, poniendo mano, holding on to the reins, what are they going to think? Oh, well, I don't know if I should do this or I should do that, because what if I mess it up? Let me just go ahead and ask, Daniela.
There's no empowerment. There's no team empowerment. Yeah.
Exactly.
There's a really cool thing, I think, about coaching, and whether that's your team or you have students, but it forces you to hold a certain space on the mindset side, on the efficiency side, on the performance side. If you're coaching something, if you're talking about something, and you're teaching somebody else about anything, like, you have to be good at that thing that you're talking about, right? And when you start coaching, one, you have to clarify all those ideas within you, so you get clear on the systems, the processes, the ops, and all that stuff.
Yep.
And as you start to articulate, like, you have to hold that space and check yourself, like, time and time again, because, how are you going to talk about something that you don't understand? So it's been one of the biggest game changers for me.
I 100% agree with you on that as well. It's definitely helped us.
Yeah.
And constantly learning. Like, what was I doing before I came? I was going over the new changes that came out to the North Carolina purchase agreement. They just came out with new changes and new verbiage to their contract with the whole, lawsuit.
North Carolina or South?
North Carolina.
You're gonna have to send me those, because I had no idea about that.
So I am constantly, even though I don't have my license, I'm constantly
on top of it.
Yes.
Well, that just shows too. Another thing is constant education, which honestly, that's the reason I think we all made money in this business, because we educated ourselves.
Yeah.
That being said, like, I want to hear from both of you guys, like, what do you think? What made you successful in this business, and what tips would you give to other people trying to get into this business?
Yeah, so one is a drive. We talked about that as well. You know, we all got to have a drive, and most importantly is a why. You know, and it reminds ourselves as well. It's like, why are we doing this for? The times that we do want to quit, and for me, it's my family, my kids. You know, it's my huge why, and it keeps reassuring me like, we have a good life, and we keep increasing our lifestyle, and it's like we can never go back because. You know, we're talking about like my daughter, 4 years old, for her birthday. She talked about she wanted to go on an airplane, go to the beach, and get a big boat.
Yeah,
you know, and that's exactly what we did. We took the whole family.
And you guys got a yacht.
Yeah, we got a yacht. We got a big yacht.
Boat.
Yeah,
that's
so
funny.
So that's the type of lifestyle that they're used to now.
Yeah.
So I can't go back.
Yeah.
You know, and keep increasing our lifestyle. So getting back to your question,
not that you would want to, anyways. I mean, once you get like, but I mean, when you see something better, like, oh, wow, this is a possibility. This is I can embrace this.
But it's funny when you said I can't go back. That means like failure is not an option.
It is not an option whatsoever. You know, and that's why I teach my kids as well. Is that if you fail, it's okay. Don't be afraid of doing something that you're not used to doing. You know, it's the first time you're doing it.
It's part of it.
It's part of the growth as well. But just failing forward. You're not gonna learn until you fail. Yeah. You know? So that's what I try to teach my kids as well. But yes, getting back to your question is a strong why. And then you asked as well is like, what would I tell the people that
someone wanting to get into the business? Yeah.
Yeah. So most importantly, it's like the people that are already doing it have the answers for you. So you might not know something, right, or getting into this industry, but the next person might. And being out there, getting out of your comfort zone, because that's what happened with me as well. I started going to meetups, pop-up events. Just find whoever is doing it. You know, whoever's doing deals. You know,
so seek mentors.
Yes, absolutely. Seek mentors. But if they don't have no money, who's the next mentor, right? Yeah.
A book.
Yeah. YouTube.
Podcasts, YouTube, meetups.
You know, it's like how many people have DM'd me like, I want to get into wholesaling. You know, I've been thinking about doing wholesaling for the past year. I was like, all right, what have you done any deals? I mean, have you at least looked researched? Have you watched some videos? No, I haven't done any of that.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. Not to interrupt you, but I get a ton of guys that send me deals. Like, hey, this is the deal, and I'm like, dude, that's not a deal. I'm like, do you know how to like comp a property and figure out what your offer is and the rehab costs, etc.? Yep. He's like, no. I'm like, have you ordered a course from anyone on how real estate works, how this business works? They're like, no, I haven't. I'm like, dude, get $500 or $1,000, go buy yourself a course. Yeah, like you got to educate yourself.
You're absolutely right.
That's just laziness. Maybe not physical laziness, but mental laziness. Like you gotta teach yourself the business, right?
There's no skin in the game either. Like you have to, put your ass in the fire, so you move, right? Yeah. So you have that urgency factor kick in.
And one guy told me, he's like, man, I don't have $500. I'm like, dude, but you know what you're doing? Like you're calling 4 hours a day and you're locking up properties. None of them are deals. You're wasting your time, dude.
Well, you know what? You're talking to a guy that started with no money, but guess what? I still had some nice things, right? I remember I had some Gucci shoes, a Gucci belt, some other stuff. I ended up pawning it. I had to sell it. Yeah. You know? So people make excuses for themselves all the time. But enough's enough. It's like, if you want to take this serious, then you know what? Stop making excuses for yourself and take action now. Because if not now, then when? Because at the end of the day, it's what we believe is we only have one life, you know? And the time, the clock is ticking by the minute. So the more time you procrastinate and want to wait, guess what? Look I'm 5 years in and we're looking how far we've came. Yeah. And what we're talking about as well, it's like we're finally, we're purchasing, we never really thought, right? $1 million house. Yeah. Our dream house.
Which in Scottsdale, that's like a $3 million house.
Yes, in Scottsdale. Yep. So, wholesaling really changed our life. Yeah. And, right now it's interesting where the market's heading, and especially the information that a lot of these people, coaches, right, are giving to everybody else. that are not they're not in the business.
They're not actively doing it.
They're not active. Yeah. They're not active. They were actually active multiple years ago, but not now.
Yeah, well, guys, everyone we have on our podcast, it's people that are doing deals.
Yeah, they're doing deals now. They're active.
If you see someone here, it's because we know they're legit. They're making money.
Yeah. So what we want to do, because this is something that me and Daniela have been talking about for some time already, is that we want to build a community for our people, the Latinos. It's always been our goal. Is how can we be able to now uplift the next person? Because let's face it, how many real Latino leaders are out there?
Yeah.
So I know wholesaling has changed my life, and I know wholesaling can be able to change everybody else's life if they put in the work, and that's what we want to do for our people and everybody else, all walks of life. Don't matter what type of skin color you're or where you come from, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But we want to do is be able, and we're working on it, is building a course out from A to Z on how to wholesale.
Yeah.
And we simplified it. We call it like real estate for dummies.
Yeah.
Because look at me. I'm not the smartest person on the damn room. I'm a high school dropout.
Yeah.
Daniela, you're a high school dropout?
Yep.
How did people like us?
Yeah. You guys are making more money than attorneys or doctors.
Yeah. So again, it's like we want to motivate our people as well, and then we're ensuring them like, hey, if we could be able to do it, I know for a fact you can do it.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna go ahead and do is make a course from A to Z on how to wholesale and give it out for free.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Now it's interesting. Like me, I would order that course, even though I know the business. I always want to learn like something new.
Yeah.
So I'll be the first one to order because I just want to know, okay, well, what are they doing that I can implement into my business?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's critical.
That would be my biggest tip for everybody is don't be a know-it-all. Like my son's interning with us, and the first thing that I told him when he walked in is, I don't even want to hear an I already know.
Yeah.
Because no, we don't know everything.
100%.
Two people can be doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But one person can be doing it smarter than the other. And wouldn't you want to be working smarter than harder? Yeah, you get the same results, but I'd rather cut my time in half than, put more hours into whatever it is that I'm doing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And I've been asked multiple times, how is it that you know so much about, the laws and regulations that go into, the real estate side?
Or just the business in general.
The business, everything. I deep dive into everything. I, pull up laws, I read books, I read news articles. I never knew how to read, data before. I was never a numbers person. I was horrible at math. I took literally pretty special education classes when it came down to math because I had an IEP. I didn't know crap about math, but I learned and taught myself. Yeah. And that's what you have to do. If you have a hunger, go out and don't make an excuse for yourself. Yeah. Read it. If you don't understand that word, copy that word. We have Google, ask Siri, whatever, get that definition of that word and then apply it. Don't give up so quick. I call it the 90-day rule, and corporate has taught me this. So what is it? The 90-day rule. 30 days, you're learning something. On the 60-day mark, you're implementing it. And by the 90th mark, so the third month, you should be seeing some kind of results, whether they're good or they're bad. Yeah. So either you're going to tweak it because you are seeing positive results, or you're going to scrap it all together. Gotcha. And I
like that. That's good.
Yeah. That's really how I move. But that's my biggest, tip is don't be a know-it-all. Get around and put in the work.
Yeah, and educate yourself. What's funny that you mentioned that because I think I've told the story many times, but again, my cousin that had 2,000, 3,000 employees, super successful. Mm-hmm. When I asked him, like again, overstake, you guys know the story. Mm-hmm. I said, "How did you do it, man? How did you get to this level?" Like, because what he did, like few and far between do. Like 2,000 employees. He's like, you know what? Number one, I was humble. He's like, I learned from other people and I applied it to my business. So it's exactly what you say, and it's true. I think I was humble too, Carlos makes fun of me because he's like, dude, you go to everybody's events. I'm like, oh, yeah.
You're well known. Everybody knows you. You know everybody.
And I still do because I know there's always going to be something that I can learn from someone else at some point.
Yeah.
And the beauty about it is we all were born with our own superpower. God gave us all a gift.
Yeah.
So I can learn the exact same thing that you're doing, but I can put my own little flavor
Your touch to it.
my own little touch.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like that's what the biggest thing is. Why do you think there's so many gurus in the space? Because everybody has learned the basics and has added their own touch, their own implementation of whatever it is.
Yeah.
You know, so just because you already know something, don't feel like, oh, I'm not going to go and waste my time because I already know that.
Yeah. So always be learning.
Yes.
Exactly.
And another message to the beginners as well is that if you want to learn something, get to learn sales right away.
Yeah.
You know, that's very important. And that's what got me to where I'm at as well. Yeah. It's sales. Salespeople, as you think about it, right? When we're kids, right? You remember we do the projects like, all right, what do you want to become when you're older, right? It's like one kid was like doctor, the other one policeman, fireman. Nobody talked about a salesperson.
Yeah, that's
right?
true. That's very true.
But salespeople are the highest paid producer in the United States or everywhere.
Everywhere.
You know?
But it's funny, even the top doctors are good salespeople.
Yes.
You
yes.
know?
Yes.
There's sales and everything.
Yeah.
Learn sales. It's crucial. No matter in what industry you get into, learn and how to master sales.
Yeah. For sure.
So.
I love it. The power of putting yourself in the right rooms as well, taking that leap, taking that risk. It's not to go, undermine it, right? I feel like masterminds are a beautiful thing because they can be a catalyst to like that little push that we sometimes need. I know I was at a mastermind when I decided to sell my other business. I was like, the hell with this. I'm going all into real estate. And I was literally sitting at a conference, real estate conference, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. For you, it was, the mastermind. And then it was like, I'm quitting my job.
Yep.
So the compilation of a couple of things, plus the motivation of being in the right rooms and having conversations with people. I think that's what allows us to borrow perspective. And then see things through when we don't feel like it. If you're just a lone wolf or working on an island, so that's very important.
And speaking of masterminds, actually, like we're planning on putting one together.
Yeah,
we're gonna have a nice house in Paradise Valley, like we did last time.
Okay.
We expect you guys to be there as guests, teaching everyone the business.
Absolutely.
So we'll announce that down the road. But no, it's true. It's a big part of success.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you on that as well. That's what got us to where we're at right now. You know, those are the shortcuts to success.
Quote unquote, right?
Quote unquote. Yeah.
I love it.
So I know Rafael was going to have a question to wrap it up. Before that, what are 2 or 3 books that shifted everything for you guys, in your opinion? Like books that you would recommend?
Yeah. Millionaire, The Secret to the Millionaire Mind.
Gotcha.
It's a good book.
Yep.
Yep. And then as well, there's a good amount of them as well. Business is Your Next 5 Moves.
Your next, is that a good book?
That's a really.
I heard it's
book.
a good book.
It's a good book.
It's a really.
I
good
got
book
it, but I
business.
haven't finished it. I just started it actually.
Yes.
So it's okay. Good to know. That's a good tip. All right. Perfect.
So mine, I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate in the comments, but I swear the Bible.
It's the Bible. I was gonna say the same. Bible.
If seriously, Salomon was like that whole, chapter, everything. There's so many. Actually, I was just watching a YouTube video of David Ramsey breaking down his biggest 5 business things that he implements in business that he learned from the Bible.
Really interesting.
Yes.
Gotcha.
And then I would say that, what other one? The Science Behind Sales is a good one.
Really? I never even heard of that book. The Science Behind Sales.
Yes. So
gotcha.
I should probably take, look into what everyone else says when it comes down to their books, but I will literally go to the library or the bookshop and just read a few pages, and if it intrigues me, because I can't read something that doesn't intrigue me. I'm so sorry. Like, find something that intrigues you that is in the realm of what you're trying to learn, because if it does not intrigue you, you are not going to read this book. I promise you.
But that's in Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Think and Grow
Napoleon
Rich.
Hill. Think and Grow Rich. Specialized knowledge.
I was gonna say that book as well.
Specialized in synthetic knowledge.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever believe that you weren't readers? Or have you always liked to read?
I never liked to read before.
I thought like books are not for me.
Yeah.
I was just reading the wrong shit. Like that's that's
Yeah,
what was happening with me.
Exactly.
Audiobooks as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
You know?
True.
Yeah.
True.
So,
And now I devour stuff. Like it's.
well, I see your guys' shop over here. You know,
With
so
all
I
the
can
books?
library up.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
definitely. Yep, that's the key. Is just find something that intrigues you and
Yeah.
go all in.
And study.
Because there's self development. She hit it right on the nail. It's
But
like,
we would like to get everyone's like top 2 books because
Yep.
it gives some people some insights of where to go. You know?
Well, that and it's like the next steps, right? Like
Yeah.
the next steps conversation.
Yep.
So I like to close off the podcast with this question. But if you guys were walking down the street and you ran into your 17-year-old selves, what advice would you give those kids? We'll start with.
So for me is let go of all the toxic people. You know, at that time, at 17 years old, I was in the streets, game banging, you know, and I had some pretty crazy stories. So it's just like, show me your friends, I'll show you your future.
Yeah.
And during that time,
that's
my future,
so true, dude.
yeah,
So
it's
true.
like my future. Where was it heading? Prison or 6 feet under?
Yeah.
You know, so really is losing all those people that are not going to get you to the next level, right? Or that's not going to be, you know, it's not going to have like,
It's not going to lift you up.
Yeah, it's not going to lift
Right.
you up whatsoever. But it's just your surroundings is very important as well. You know, it's cues, because I see my son now. It's like I see the kids that he's around with, and you know they're all educated.
Yeah.
You know, they're not the most popular.
Yeah.
But guess what? They're educated. They're good kids.
Yeah.
You know, they like to work out. My son loves to work out.
Yeah.
But I was like, man, me at that age, I'm like, I was in the streets.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. What's interesting, you know, when people talk about relationships, a lot of times like you think like, oh, I could help this person, you know, they can help me, or you know, you think like you could fix people, right?
Yeah.
But in relationships, there's no neutral.
Yeah.
They either lift you up or they bring you down.
Yep.
Yep.
And that's for a business partner, that's for a friend,
Yep.
that's for a spouse. Like if you guys think there's neutrals in relationships, there's not.
And that's why you have to set boundaries. You know,
Correct.
we had that conversation as well, setting those boundaries.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I remember you breaking that down in our podcast. We sat down, some time ago on the CEO Pulse podcast, and you went through your whole story. Fascinating how the whole thing just kind of developed. So guys, go ahead and check that out. We'll drop the link to for the CEO Pulse podcast on the notes here. But that's an episode you and I just sitting down and breaking it. You know, breaking it all down, and you talk about your upbringing and everything, which is pretty impressive, man. Like it's to make that.
And that's what got me to where I'm at right now as well. You know, those tough times. You know, and seeing my mom as a single mom, working 2 jobs, you know, and barely providing for us. You know, and like thinking to myself, I'm like, man, like now, like those were the best times.
Yeah.
You know, of man, like, you know,
the journey.
Yeah, the journey. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what brings me humbling experience as well. Now my kids don't experience that whatsoever.
Yeah.
You know, they live the good life.
They hear the myths.
But you gotta find a way to challenge your kids as well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, that's it goes back to what she was saying. Our son's intern. He's 14 years old, and we put him in our payroll. Yeah. You know, he wakes up every single day in the morning, 6 o'clock. Gets ready, goes to the office with us.
He learned to skip train buyers today.
Yep.
Wow,
and guess what? You know, he tried calling off last week. I was like,
nope.
That is not going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's what we're teaching our son.
Yeah, that's good.
You know,
what about you, Daniela? What advice would you give to your younger self?
Mine would be love myself more. It's okay to set boundaries, and you know, just keep out those negative thoughts.
Yeah.
I was a teen mom, so I had to grow up really fast.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of judgment, you know, from so many people around me. You know, I had my kid at 16.
Yeah, that's young.
So yeah, I look at my son's 14. I look at him and I'm like, in a few years, like I could never imagine him. Oh my goodness. At the time I thought I was grown, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
And no. But yeah, I would tell myself that, because I feel like a lot of people are gonna say like, oh, love yourself. Like, of course I love myself. Yeah. But no. I want you to really look deep and ask yourself, do I really love myself?
Yeah.
Because if you did, there's a lot of things that people would say that they wouldn't put up with certain things.
Or you won't let someone treat you a certain way.
100%.
Yeah.
You would set more boundaries.
Yeah.
You would stand up for yourself.
Yeah. That's why you guys know me. I mean, I'm I'm a nice guy, but if I feel like you're not giving me value, I'm done with you. End of story. I'm not because I love myself. I'm not gonna let someone belittle me or look down on me or not value me. It's just not gonna happen. I might care for that person. I'm not gonna allow it. Like, we're done, right? So it's true. You have to love yourself and respect yourself.
And in our culture, that's not ever taught.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, and that's why we want to build the community that we want, because those things aren't talked about. Those are just things that is like our hush hush. You know, mental health is hush hush.
Yeah.
Loving yourself is hush hush. Just all those.
It's almost
things.
frowned upon if you really think about it.
It is, and it's very sad. You know, like I went through my own dark places that I needed to come out of.
Yeah.
And all of that. So getting into business and making money doesn't fix that.
Yeah.
You know, it just amplifies the person that you already are. So if you're already a broken person and you start making money, you're just going to be a broken person with money and not make the best decisions. Yesterday there was a girl from Gucci's, brand, record label that passed away. She overdosed.
Oh, wow.
You know, and a lot of people are giving him backlash because he didn't help enough. But at the end of the day, it's all in us. Yeah. It's us that we need to fix ourselves, right? Yeah. We need to work on that past trauma, because if not, you're going to bring all of that into your business. And when shit hits the fan, you're not going to know how to control whatever it is. And you can, it could go really bad really fast.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. That's great.
Facts.
Great information.
Yeah. Guys, it's been a blast having you on the show. If somebody wants to continue the conversation, maybe reach out to you, do deals with you guys, where's the best place to find you guys?
So, Facebook, Art Sanchez. Instagram, CEO, Art Sanchez. Listen, if you have any questions or any help, guidance, please DM me. All right?
So on Facebook, I am Daniela R. Sanchez. And then on Instagram, which is the best way to reach out to me, it's the Daniela with one L Sanchez.
Perfect. Well, thank you for your time, guys. This was great. I'm glad we provided a lot of value. And until next time.
Thank you for having us.
Great having you guys.
Yep, thank you.
Fam, stay focused. You got this. Let's go.